Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Institute of Management 1. Today we will be exploring warehousing. My name is Girish, and I am a director of the Institute of Supply Chain Management. I also teach a couple of sessions on supply chain management, including supply chain costs, supply chain risk, supply chain sourcing at the institute and warehousing at the institute. I would like to first start with giving you a brief overview of what the Institute of Supply Chain Management is all about. You are all people who have either been working in the area of supply chain management or are looking towards a career in supply chain management. In either case, what we wish to do through this series is to open up the new domain, relatively new domain of supply chain management. As I said in my first lecture, this is hardly a 40-year-old domain, so it's a relatively new domain in business studies as such. And as you try to make your way through in supply chain management, we hope that this series will help you understand the multiple options that you have, and also what is it that supply chain education today looks forward to, especially when it comes to, in today's case, we will be talking about warehousing.
Hello.
The Institute of Supply Chain Management was started in the year 2014 as an education, research, training, and consulting organization. Therefore, our portfolio essentially consists of, we have our education wing, which does some programs in the education sector. We do some certification. We do training programs of 1 or 2 days, which we call the master class, where anyone can register. We have a calendar of these. Of late, we have moved these master classes to the online domain. We do in-company training for in the area of supply chain management and demand planning. So if any of you are working in companies and are looking for institutions who can train your people in supply chain management, please do contact us. We would be happy to engage with you. Our difference is that we customize the program based on your industry. For example, if you're in the FMCG sector, our training will be focused on FMCG supply chain, and if you're in the cement sector, it will be focused on cement supply chain. We also do research, consulting, and mentoring of people within the supply chain domain, and we have 2 knowledge portals, which we will come to when I close the session. To start with, we are looking at the education wing of the Institute of Supply Chain Management. We run a program called the Executive Program in Supply Chain Management. This program will start on the 19th of July, and this is a 11-month program with a 2-month capstone. We are now running this as virtual classrooms. So we will have every week, Sundays, a 3-hour classroom. And then as you complete each module, you'll have an exam, and then we will go forward. So this is a 11-month program, in-depth look at what supply chain management is. It gives you expertise in supply chain management. We have our certifications, and in certification, the first one that I would like to inform you is the Certified Supply Chain Leader, which we have named R4, which is essentially how would you want to look at your supply chains once we come out of the lockdown. As we are coming out of the lockdown, there's a huge amount of changes that we need to make to supply chain, and this program focuses on all those changes that we need to make and why do we need to make them and what the future direction is. The launch date is on 4th July. If any one of you are interested, please do let us know, and we will be in touch with you for admissions. We have the Certified Supply Chain Manager, which is again a virtual certification. We have weekend classes starting on the 10th of July. This is again creating a 5-module session, creating expertise in supply chain across multiple domains as we have listed in our 101 series. And then we have the Certified Demand Planning and Forecasting Professional, the only program that looks at the demand planning and forecasting function in an unbiased manner. So we examine demand planning, forecasting, DDMRP, and then come up and say, which one would you choose and why would you choose them? So this is a kind of an unbiased look at the demand planning and forecasting world. The important dates for you: R4 starts on 4th July, EPSCM on 19th July, CSTM on 10th July, and CDPFP on 25th July. If any one of you want to join these programs, please do let us know, and we will come and contact you. At this point in time, I would like to launch a small poll so that we can make this interactive instead of just being a one dialogue. The first question that I would like to ask you is, what is the duration of the course you're looking at? Are you looking at any long-term or a short-term program? If you were to look at one, if you could just have a few seconds to fill in this. Please do vote. I have a few more seconds, 2 seconds more. Thank you very much. 88% are looking at short-term courses and only 12% at long-term. That's a nice spread. That's kind of what we have been seeing across. Coming back to the institute, we are managed or governed by a very prominent council of people. We have Dr. John Gatorna, who is Executive Chairman of Gatorna Alignment, a man who has spent a lifetime in supply chain and has contributed significantly to the advancement of supply chain. We have Dr. Mahendra Singh, a former Executive Director of MIT Global. MIT as in Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. We have Kalpesh Pathak, who is the Vice President Purchase of Supply Chain at Fiat. And we have Dr. Rakesh Sinha, who is the CEO of Reflexive Supply Chain, and also he was the CEO of Godrej Consumer Products Limited. And we have Dr. Rakesh Singh, who is the chairman of our institute. We have our mentors, and we have a long list of mentors whom you can see. We have mentors who are both from the academia and the industry. The first 4 names you see here are all academicians: Dr. Rakesh Singh, Girish Suhasran, and Upadhyay. We are academicians, and the rest you see are all practitioners who are from multiple streams and domains. These will be the people who will be mentoring and guiding you. This is a list of our companies where we have done training. We have an ecosystem which consists of a portal called a Supply Chain Management Portal. We request you to all to kindly log in and see. It's called scmpro-knowledge.in. It's a portal where we have collected all kinds of information on supply chain management. It's all free. Please feel free to do that. I would like to launch a smaller poll now, exactly 30 minutes. If you could kindly fill it in, I'll be obliged. This is a small poll to check what is your orientation when you look at all this, so that I will be able to address those issues correctly. I need to know what your specific interests are. It's more to help me understand the need of and where I should pitch my course. Thank you very much. Yeah. We have another forum called the SCM Pro Forums, where we keep having webinars and events. And we have a focused center of excellence on demand planning, which we call the Demand Planning Academy. You can also get in touch with us through multiple methods. We are present on LinkedIn, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube. As I said, you have our event website at scmproforums.com, where you can log in and see what are our events which we are doing, which are the webinars we are organizing. And you can also go on to our knowledge portal, scmpro-knowledge.in, and look at what are the kind of articles, interviews, etc. that we keep publishing, so that you get current with what SCM Pro is and what supply chain management developments are. That is a brief overview of ISCM. All these entities are under the ISCM brand, and I invite you to look at these sites, take advantage of them so that we can help you better. I would also like you to send us your comments on these issues. Now let me get into the topic of the day, which is warehousing. Now, before I start that, I have a small announcement to make. If you look on your right-hand side, you will find a small panel where you will have something called as questions, right? If you type your question in, I will get the question and I will be able to address that question as we go along. Okay, so as and when you have a doubt or you feel something that you need clarified, I would request you to please type it into this question and send it across so that I will be able to address them. And second, please keep it relevant to today's topic, which is warehousing. If you have other topics, we will take it up when the topic comes up in our future. So today, requesting you all to please type only questions regarding to warehousing. Okay, when we think of warehousing, what is it that we know? What is it that we feel, or what is the image that comes to mind? If any one of you can just type into that question box and send it across. When I say warehousing, what comes to mind? Anyone? Yes, Priya Jain says a place where goods are stocked, a place where goods. So essentially, we are talking about a place where we will have storage of. Yes, in the Ganesh says inventory storage space. Essentially, we are talking about some place where we will keep our goods. Okay, good. That's great. But when we look at it, there are multiple types of warehouses you will have. Now, if I were to show you some photographs, on your left is a photograph of a typical warehouse that you will see across the country. What do you see here? 4 walls, a roof, and I think there is a floor, but I am not sure if that floor is proper or not. And we have some boxes lying around all over, somewhere kept as a prop when you want to climb on top to remove them. And this is a typical old style warehouse, earlier to referred as godowns. And on your right, what do we have? On the right, we have, this is essentially a photograph of an Amazon warehouse in the US. So you have a huge area where you have shelves all over the place. And the yellow things that you see in the bottom, these are robots. I will come to that when we take the technology session. Now, here we have a different view of the warehouse itself. So we have got two extremes. On one extreme, we have 4 walls and a roof with sometimes a floor thrown in. And on the other side, we have a very well organized, very well structured, very well lit, robotized warehouse. The reality in India is somewhere between these two. It's somewhere between the empty godown space with the 4 walls, the godown and the warehouse. We are somewhere in between. We are trying to get more organized and move towards the modern warehousing standards. And this is a change that we are anticipating. We will see more and more of people moving from this kind of a storage to what we are seeing on the right. Now, typically, a warehouse is used to store materials. Now, this was made more apparent, especially during the COVID-19 lockdown, where interstate movement of goods was restricted. But the consumers still wanted to buy materials, so you had to go to shop and buy your essential, the only essential commodities were allowed. But whenever you go to the shop, you wanted to see your soaps or your toothpaste or your oils available on the shelf. The shop cannot stock indefinitely. The production is in a place from where there is no transport, interstate transport available. So then how do we do it? Which is where warehouses became all the more important and people started focusing and saying that, oh, warehouse and the location of the warehouse is a very important part of how we can service the customer. If you have a warehouse which is close to Mumbai, you can supply Mumbai very easily. Instead, if you have a warehouse somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal or Nagpur, from there to bring goods back into Mumbai takes a few days. So your customer serviceability comes down. So warehouse essential, and which is what also, if you look at Amazon, when Amazon started way back in '99, they said we don't want to have any kind of brick and mortar presence. We will be totally an e-platform. We will not have any kind of presence anywhere. Today they're running around 47 odd warehouses across the US because they realize that to give service immediately, Amazon is now known for its same day service or next day service. If you want to give a same day or a next day service, you need to have the goods very close to you, and therefore they're using warehouses in a very brilliant way. Now, if you look at what do we do in a warehouse, it is not just storage, right? That might be what we think as the core of warehouses is to store material. There are other activities which are actually contributing to it, and we will look at them. The first activity that a warehouse does is it receives goods from the manufacturers. So you have to have a place where trucks can come in, unload material, keep it in a place, and then shift it into the shelves. So this is a place, so this is called the receiving function. Remember, in a lot of places, there are entry restrictions which will prevent trucks from coming in throughout the day. So the trucks have to be scheduled to come into the warehouse at a time when there are no restrictions. The bays should be available. The bay is nothing else but a place where a truck can come and stop, and you can unload the goods into the warehouse. The next function is storing, where once the material is unloaded, then we need to sort it out and store it into its location in the warehouse so that you can again know where that goods have been stored. So that is storing. The third aspect is order picking, or it's also called just picking, which is when you receive an order, you have to go and pick the right material from the right place and dispatch it. So that becomes your order picking. For this, you have a whole army of people who will be moving around with handheld cars, some forklifts, running from place to place, identifying which is the product that they have to buy, pick up. So they'll be given an order list generated by the system. They look at the order list and say, okay, I have to pick up 10 cartons of soap. So I have to go to this place and pick up 10 cartons of soap. Then I have to pick up hair oil. I have to go here and pick up hair oil. So they go running around, picking up all these things, dumping it into a cart and bringing it for the dispatch section, which is your shipping section, where once the goods come there, people look at it, see, verify it with the order, and then they dispatch it, which will be the last function, which is the delivery aspect of the warehouse, where we will be sending the goods out into wherever it has to go. So these are the major activities within a warehouse, though of late a lot more emphasis is on something called as value added services. Now, so far what we have seen in terms of receiving, storing, picking, shipping, delivery, these are not adding any value to the goods you have stored, right? It's just that I've kept it, I've picked it up from there, I have sent it. That's all I have. So when I look at the new requirement of warehousing, we are talking more about value added services. For example, if it is a electronic item, the components could come from multiple sites. I could assemble all of them and then send it across to the consumer. If it is a TV that has been ordered, the TV will come from one place, the stand will come from another supplier. So I will bring both of them together, put it into the packing, and then dispatch it to the customer. So the warehouse becomes a kind of a finishing factory for the product. That is also one of the ways in which the warehouse is going to shift into the future. Instead of holding the finished product, they will hold it at one level below that, and based on the customer requirement, they will pull in the components, create the package, and send it out. For example, Let's take a case as today when you look at any instruction, the instructions come in some 25 different languages which I have to print and keep. Now, if I'm servicing predominantly in Maharashtra, why do I need Chinese, or why do I need German, or why do I need Spanish? I don't need them. So I can have a simple instruction printed in, let's say, Hindi, Marathi, and English. Just keep 3 languages and keep it in the warehouse in Bhiwandi. So whenever somebody orders, when I have to service from Bhiwandi, I will include this instruction manual, which is localized. These are the kind of things that people are now looking forward to. Now, what are the kinds of warehouses that we can see? Now, you have multiple types. There are one categorization of warehouses which looks at warehouses as either owned by the government, owned by public, private limited companies, or owned by joint venture. We are not going to look at it that way. We are going to look at it in types, not by ownership. That is ownership. It doesn't matter what the ownership is. What matters is what do you do with that warehouse. So the first kind of warehouse that I would like you to be familiar with is something called as a distribution center. Now, there is a slight confusion with people regarding distribution center and fulfillment center, right? What is a distribution center? Now, distribution center, now here again you will find a small difference in terminology also. Serves the retailer and is remote from the customer. The way the industry uses the word customer and consumer is slightly different. You and me, we are consumers of a product. But when Hindustan Lever talks of customer, he is talking about the retail store, the store which is selling it. Because the store is the one that is buying from Hindustan Lever. So for him, the customer is the store and the consumer is you and me. That difference we need to keep in mind. So what does a distribution center do? A distribution center essentially serves multiple retailers, right? So I have, let's say, a distribution center in Bhiwandi, and it has to serve all the retailers in Mumbai region. Okay, so what is the kind of orders which will come here? Sorry, what is the kind of orders which will come? These will essentially be bulk orders, right? Because when a store orders, he'll order 10 cartons of soap, 2 cartons of oil, 3 cartons of that, 5 cartons of this. He'll be ordering in bulk. So here the warehouse will store and dispatch cartons, right? Now, when we come to fulfillment center is more like an e-commerce warehouse from where the consumers are served, where you and I are served. So essentially, when we talk of fulfillment center, we are talking of consumer sales. The difference is distribution center will be more focused on giving out cartons. Fulfillment centers will be picking up one quantity. So you will not order 25 soaps. You will order 1 cake of soap. You will not order 25 shirts. You will order 1 shirt. So the fulfillment center has to go pick up that 1 shirt and send it to you. While at the distribution center, I have to go and pick up a carton of shirts and send it to you. That is a major difference when it comes to fulfillment centers. Any questions as of now? Please keep your questions coming. Then we have cold chains. What is a cold chain? A cold chain is nothing else but a temperature controlled warehouse. So you need to have insulated floor, insulated wall, insulated roof. And there are multiple zones within a cold store, which goes from -18 to probably -5, -18 to probably +5. So there are multiple zones. Depending on the kind of goods you need to store, you have to keep it at the right temperature. For example, some of these new generation of vaccines and enzymes need to be stored at -18. Almost all drugs need to be stored at less than 24 degrees centigrade. So they have to be kept in cool environments. The food, for example, needs to be kept in a temperature controlled environment. So these are things that these are the kind of products which you will use in a cold chain. And then we have warehouses for chemicals, which is essentially primarily because it's a very hazardous material. I have put chemicals here, but you can call it as a hazardous material storage warehouse. Here, the layout design of the warehouse should have a huge emphasis on safety. You need to have sprinklers, you need to have fire extinguishing, and you need to know what chemicals can be stored with which chemicals, because your warehouse is a huge area. You can't keep two highly inflammable goods together. So if one catches fire, the other also will catch fire. So you need some chemicals cannot be stored together. If there is a leak, it will create an explosion. So you need to have those isolations happening. You need to have those safety precautions in place. Safety is one of the biggest concerns in a chemical warehouse, though I do not mean to say safety doesn't matter. Safety matters in all warehouses, but the nature of goods in a chemical warehouses has pushed the level of safety much higher. Now, this is a simple schematic I have of how a warehouse operates. You have receiving at one point. Here I receive the goods. In India, we don't see too much of pallets. World over, pallets are the way to go. Slowly, India is also trying to move into palletized movement of goods. Palletized movement of goods is nothing else. You'll have a wooden or a plastic or an iron platform on which material is stored, and you wrap it up. It becomes one single unit. You pick up the entire pallet with a forklift and load it onto a truck. Instead of loading one by one each carton, you just pick up the carton and load it. It reduces your loading and unloading time. So you receive it, then you open up the pallet, create cartons out of it, and if you're a distribution center, you will stay at the carton level and you will send it out to shipping. If you are a e-commerce or a fulfillment center, you will unpack the carton and open it up and keep it, and then you will pick each and then ship it. If you are someone like a Walmart, you will do something like called as a cross dock. My next slide, I will be talking to you about cross dock. Unitizing else is nothing else from a carton. If for example, if I want to serve both e-commerce and retail from one warehouse, I should be able to have the capability of picking a carton or picking a single. So that is unitizing. Now, coming simply, when we look at the cost of warehousing, 10% of the operating cost is for receiving, 15% is for putting it in the designated place. Storing has no value. 55% of the cost is in picking, and 20% is other shipping and other operating costs. So if you look at it cost wise, picking becomes your most expensive part of your warehouse. The one which doesn't add value to it is storing. So the warehouse should now be seen not as a place where you can store goods, but a place which will increase the throughput of your goods, which means goods come, goods go. They do not stay for long in the warehouse. What will this mean? The huge warehouse that you have can be shrunk, and you can use a smaller part, because the velocity of movement of goods is what you're emphasizing. You're bringing in goods, you're doing some kind of operations on it, you're unpacking it, repacking it into smaller packages and sending it out, rather than let it rest on your shelves. This is what this slide will tell you, that you need to ensure that warehouses move from a store to a throughput center. Now, when we do this, we need a huge amount of equipment. Any questions so far? Can it be said? No, there is a question by Priya. Priya, no, DCs typically don't serve FCs. DCs would prefer, see, in a fulfillment center, your incoming material will be again large in quantity. So a truckload of material can come into a fulfillment center. It then gets distributed into each, and then from there it gets distributed. While in a distribution center, again, a truckload comes in, but what goes out will be larger cartons. Therefore, it need not be as close to town as a fulfillment center. I am okay with my distribution center being, let's say, in a place like Talasari where the land prices are low, while I would want to have my fulfillment center in Panvel or Bhiwandi, which is close to Mumbai, around 50-60 kilometers from Mumbai. And transit hubs, Abhijit has asked, how for storage no value added? Abhijit, whenever there is a good sitting on your shelf, there is no value addition to that, right? There is no operation that happens. It doesn't create any value in the product. When you receive, you put away, you pick, and then you dispatch. You are doing something so that it will happen. But as long as it is sitting idle there, there is no other cost involved in it. So therefore, it becomes a non-value added entity within the warehousing operations, right? In picking, I can add value by saying that a carton came from that I only picked one. Therefore, I have converted it from a bulk to a each. There is some value that I have added by reducing the, otherwise I'll have to shift a bulk. So these are some of the ways in which it can be said that. Transit hub does not store a product for a longer time. Is that a solution? Absolutely. The difference here is that transit hubs could be, because it is going to come in more and more into prominence in India once we set up those multimodal logistics park. We are setting up around 35 multimodal logistics park across the country where goods will come into that warehouse and then from in bulk. Say for example, I can move goods from Delhi to Mumbai by train, keep it in a multimodal warehouse there, and from there ship to road and then distribute the product from there. These cases, essentially the goods are waiting for transit and therefore they don't stay there long. Storing does involve cost, yes, but it does not add value. Even if it is your own premises, you have to have a cost or a rent attached to it. It involves a cost, but it does not add value. Your idea is to push it out, keep it as little as possible on your shelf. That should be the aim of the warehouse. And that is why we keep saying, sitting on that, it is adding no value, keep moving it out. So the warehouse moves from storage to a throughput center. That is the future that we see. I'll talk about it. Priya, I'll talk about what are the ways to eliminate this non-value added activity. It essentially is to see, can I have a better control and information flow so that my goods can move through the system. Now, coming to a warehousing equipment, the first picture here is of a storage rack. You saw the first photograph which I showed you, which is an empty go down. From there, we are coming into something like this, where each position in the storage rack has got an address. So this is called a pallet position. Each pallet position will have an address. So once you place a pallet in a particular pallet position, your warehouse management system knows what is in that particular position. So the first piece of equipment that warehouses today are going to have are these storage racks. The second piece of equipment, which today a lot of warehouses are these manual equipments, material handling equipments. This will be the most often used one, where you'll put a pallet in it and people will keep pulling it around. But you have it in multiple other ways. You have forklift, these kind of manual trolleys also, which you keep pushing around. But this is the most commonly used method. And then we have the mechanized forklifts, which are essentially small trucks with which you have seen all over the place. We have these coming in a bigger way. The difference here is these kind of the manual material handling equipment can move on a rough floor, while these kind of material handling equipment need a very smooth floor. The tire that you see is not the ordinary automobile tire. They are special rubber tires. If it chips off, you'll have to replace the whole thing, and it's very expensive. The flooring has to be very good when you move to modern material handling equipments. Then you have this is called an automatic storage and retrieval system, which is where the country is going to. I think in India we have 2 installations of ASRS so far, where you have these small little boxes that you see here. These are called shuttles, which will keep moving on top, which will be shifting products into the yellow boxes that we see. And the whole concept is you don't need people within the warehouse to bring material to you. You will sit at a console and say, pick up goods from so-and-so bin location. From there, the console will go across, pick it up and come back. Slightly expensive in the Indian context, so we do not have too many of ASRS implementations in India. The next photograph, this one that you see, is essentially from an Amazon warehouse again. This is a robotic warehouse where we are seeing these small things that you see are the robots which are going to bring the entire shelf in which the goods are stored to a man sitting somewhere, and he picks it out and keeps it. So we have robots coming into the warehouse, and these that you see are the conveyor belt system within the warehouse, by which the goods can be sent from one place to another instead of a man, pulling a cart like this and going from place to place. If you have a conveyor belt, you can dump goods onto the conveyor. The conveyor belt will take it, and the people at the receiving end will receive it and pack it. So these are the kind of equipments that a warehouse today will have. Necessarily, the bottom three have not come into India. The top three are in India. Now, I told you something called as a cross dock when I showed you the diagram. Essentially, what is a cross dock? When you look at the first, on your left, the diagram, what do I have? I have an inbound staging area. I have a place where the trucks come in. So when the trucks come in, I will unload it and keep it in this area. From this area, which is the staging area, I will then put away into this rack. So I have a rack where I will put this material away. And then when I want it, I will pick it up from here, bring it up to, if I have some value addition, I have to put some leaflets in it, I have to do some value addition, I will do it. Then I will pack it, and then I will send it out, and I will keep it here. The trucks will come, I will take it out from here to the truck and dispatch it. This is a typical layer of a warehouse. In a cross dock, what do we do? In a cross dock, I bring in a truck from one side, bring out the goods into my warehouse. On the other hand, I have smaller trucks standing, and I will mix goods into it and I will send it out. So if you look at it, on the left hand side, one has orange, blue and green. On the right hand side, the truck has got a mix of orange, blue and green. Here I am sorting it out. I'm bringing in the orange, I'm bringing in the blue, I'm bringing in the green, and then distributing into multiple trucks. In this case, what is happening? The goods are not going to sit in my rack. They come in, they get sorted, they get sent out. The time that they spend in my warehouse is very less. This is typically true for a Walmart kind of where this is typically a Walmart warehouse where they bring in large truckloads of goods into the warehouse, bring them into the warehouse, break them, consolidate them into smaller lots and ship them through smaller trucks to their stores. This is typically a cross dock where the goods do not stay within the warehouse. So this is one way in which you can eliminate. In fact, there are interesting ways in which this cross dock is being done in India. I know a cement company which does a cross dock without a warehouse. What it does is that it brings a 40-ton truck to the outskirts of the city, stops it there, then brings light commercial vehicles to that truck, transfers the goods from the 40-tonner to the LCV, and then distributes within the city. So you don't need a storage area. You don't even need a warehouse. They are doing it that way. So there are innovations happening in India which are very interesting. Any questions so far? If there are any questions, please do let me know. I will take it up because we are coming towards the end of the session. So as we look forward, what is it that we are going to see in warehousing? We are going to see a number of issues within warehousing. One, you will see a lot more of processing happening in the warehouse. So they will be doubling up as your last minute finishing place. The goods will not be fully finished in the factory, packed and sent. It will be sent as semi-finished, and then it will get final assembly within the warehouse. Then you will see things like 3D printing coming up. In fact, today Amazon is looking at a kind of place where when you play, they have 3D printers on trucks. You place an order, the truck starts moving from its destination to your place, 3D printing the product along the way, so that by the time it reaches your home, the material is printed, they just drop it off and go. So when these things come in, you will see again warehouse requirements going through a drastic change. Finished goods inventory will come down because goods, as long as they're sitting in the shelf of a warehouse, are losing value because they become obsolete, time waste. People want to move it as quickly as possible to the final store where people can come and pick it up. So you're going to see physical inventory of finished goods and therefore warehouse sizes coming down. The warehouse size will also come down because of the way in which we are using this vertical space. So far, a lot of our warehouses, you could see the roof. Now the warehouses have gone to 13 meters, 14 meters height. So you could have a huge amount of storage in the same small footprint area. But you need very good flooring, etc. for that. And especially in the spare part markets, you will see 3D printing coming up much more than anything else. What are the and therefore what are the skill sets that you will need as you go into warehousing? You will need to understand a lot more of analytics and big data within warehouse, because warehouse is the place where a lot of information about the distribution of your goods is lying. When did the material come in? How long was it there on the shelf? When did it go out? And therefore you can make sense of which commodity, which product, for how long is it sitting in the shelf? Why is it sitting in the shelf so long? You will need a lot of analytics which you can use through in big data and analytics use in warehousing. Internet of Things are also coming up. Internet of Things again in warehousing as a function would one be embedded in the material handling equipments that we saw, and second would be also within the warehouse to let you know where things are lying forgotten. One of the problems with the warehouse is there something called as dark goods. That is goods which have got lost in the warehouse because they have been placed somewhere where they do not know where it is kept. So this is very typical in warehousing. You would have ordered some 1 million pieces of white shirt. You have stored it in multiple places. When you go and take a physical inventory, you can only find, let's say, 100 pieces are missing. It is not that the 100 pieces were stolen. It is that the 100 pieces have been kept somewhere where you do not know where. So to identify that, you would have things like sensors which will let you know where is a particular good setting, how long is it setting. Those things would come up. You would have simulation which is coming up. That's a very interesting application in warehousing essentially. In warehousing, I showed you a diagram where I showed you goods coming in, unpacked, stored, picked up, packed, sent out. Now this is a flow of material. Now if you multiplied this around 1,000 times, which is what a true warehouse would look like, a 1 million square feet warehouse and a 5 lakh square feet warehouse kind of things, you can see the complications. People are moving everywhere. They should not cross each other, because when people or machines cross each other, one of them has to stay back, which means there's going to be a delay in the movement of material. So what you can do is through simulation, you can work out how your flows will be affected, how you can store goods separately so that this cross flow of people will be minimized. So you can see a lot more of simulation coming in, and as in any other part, you're going to see digitalization coming in a big way. You're going to see do away with those lists by which picked lists, which they call it. Picked lists are going to become more and more on handheld terminals. So you're not going to have too many of pick lists coming through. 3D printing, I did talk to you about. Robotics, I showed you how robots are in Amazon warehouses. In warehouses, normally, what do you do? The man goes to the goods is sitting in a shelf, you pick it and bring it. So it is called as a man to goods process. Amazon has turned it around and goods to man. The man stands in one corner, which probably is air conditioned, and the goods lie wherever they are. The robot brings the goods to the man, the whole shelf he brings it. The man takes what he needs from the shelf, and the robot takes the shelf back and stores it somewhere. The man doesn't know where it is stored. The robot knows where it is stored. So whenever there needs to be a pick order coming in, the warehouse management system will instruct the robot where to go and pick it up and come from. So the man now stands in one area. He need not walk through that 1 million square feet of warehouse. He is not that tired, and therefore the chances of making mistakes are less. In warehouses, a lot of mistakes keep happening. You want a white shirt of size medium. I go and pick up a white shirt of size small. It is shipped to you. So I have incurred the shipping cost. It has come to you as a different size. You are unhappy. You go and post on the LinkedIn saying that, and Facebook saying that, what nonsense of a company. I asked for medium, they sent me small. They don't even know their sizes. And then you're an unhappy customer. And then I have to bring that shirt back again, which is a cost, and then ship the new shirt back to you, which is a third cost. Now, these kind of errors happen in warehouses primarily because people keep moving around too much. Automation can bring down these issues. Any questions so far? There is an interesting question by Umar Tariq. He asked, which is more feasible, dedicated or randomized space allocation? Studies by Amazon shows that randomized space allocation is good, because Amazon has come up with this chaos storage theory. It says that, why should I have a designated place for a product? I can store it wherever I want. When picking, my system should know where to pick from. And since there are robots who are doing this, bringing the shelves, you need not necessarily worry about how much distance you are traveling. So in a robotized, in an Amazon kind of a warehouse, they are moving towards a totally randomized solution, because what they do is that the robot knows where the shelf is placed and what the products on that shelf are. And whenever you're placing some product in a shelf, you scan the barcode of the space and the barcode of the equipment, so that your warehouse management system knows what is stored. But in India, we would prefer a more dedicated kind of a thing, because we don't have the technology which will allow it. But if we have that technology coming in, then this warehousing operations can be made smoother. Any tech support to do physical verification of spares? Here again, there are technologies which are now being used. We are having RFIDs being used in a number of warehouses, where you attach RFID tags to each part which is lying, and then you have a drone which keeps moving along the warehouse shelves and scanning these RFID scanners, collecting that information and giving it to you and telling you which spare is lying where, what is that. So Umar, I answered one question of yours, which is essentially on dedicated or random. Let me see your other question. Kindly guide how to allocate space in warehouse if demand is varying highly. Umar, here, this is the core of warehousing management. The core principle of warehousing management is essentially your ability to estimate what is the kind of demand that you will have, and which is where again I go back to analytics. So unless you have your analytics well in place, you will not be even able to spot these trends and say how much of extra space will I require, and therefore you will also see not everything will come at a peak at the same time. You will have some products which are acquiring a peak, while some will not be at a peak. So you will need to be able to manage this only if you have the data. This is the way modern warehouses are going. They're using a lot of data analytics and artificial intelligence to kind of understand the storage requirements. So today it's becoming highly focused on technology. Umar, again, another question which was asked was that, kindly guide the factors which come into calculating, do we need a warehouse or not? Do we need a warehouse is not the question. Where should we have the warehouse is the question. Remember, your production is not always equal to demand. Therefore, there will always be surplus. Second, you will not be able to move from your factory to the consumer. you will need to have intermediate staging areas. Therefore, you can never do away with warehouses, but you can use warehouses intelligently, reducing the total warehouse cost. That is what you should be looking at. Dharyashil Nalavade, you wanted me to share the operating cost slide. You want to see it online? I'll show it to you online again. Anyway, if, once we give you the presentations, you will be able to get it. What would you like to recommend to an eFMCG startup? Manish, I am not in a position to understand your requirement fully. You will need to be a lot more specific when it comes to that, which probably we can take out offline. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And yes, please do visit our websites, scmpro-knowledge.in and scmproforums.com, and also keep looking up on iscmindia.com to look at the various master classes, the training programs which we keep offering. And I would urge you all to consider joining our training program R4, which is going to talk to you about what should be the future of supply chain management. Thank you very much. I hope it was interesting for you. And till the next time, keep safe. Thank you very much. Please join us for our next session on the 8th of July. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.